Welcome to the Gardening with Edibles Masterclass on Mediterranean herb. I'm Cherish, and today I'll be sharing some tips on growing these herbs, and also I will be going through some of the common questions raised by the gardeners. And lastly, we'll be having a short Q&A session to address some of the questions that you might have, and also you can also upvote the questions that you would like to see answered. So now first, what are some of the Mediterranean herbs that you can think of? Are they native to the Mediterranean region? I guess some of you will be saying rosemary, basil, mint in front of your screen. If you say so, yes, you are right. We have actually a lot of different types of Mediterranean herbs growing in Singapore. So please allow me to introduce some of these Mediterranean herbs that we can grow over here. Now, first of all, the famous plant when we talk about Mediterranean herb will be rosemary. So in local nurseries, actually you get to spot two types of rosemary form in the nurseries. So the first one will be the upright form and also the creeping form. Today, I have three different types of rosemary over here. First, I have the upright form, which is commonly seen in the nursery. The upright form common rosemary over here. Next, I have two types of creeping form. I have these, and also this very cute little fella over here. This is actually a creeping rosemary. The cultivar name is actually called as prostratus, which means as the branch actually grow horizontally at the ground surface. Whereas over here, this is a less common cultivar that you get to see, which is the dancing water. One thing I like about dancing water will be because of the creeping down branches over here looks like a water flow going down. Isn't it nice? And today we are lucky. If you always wonder how the flower looks like for rosemary, today the dancing water is actually flowering, which is over here. So this is more or less about the cultivar that I have today. So what are some of the usage that you can use for rosemary? I believe a lot of people know that they can use for culinaries. One way you can use is you can harvest the branches and use as a BBQ skewer. So while you are cooking, it will enhance the meat flavor as well. Second, in some of the studies, actually, they show that rosemary that rosemary actually help in improve memories and hair growth as well. So kids, if you are doing some studying for your exam, perhaps you want to have a pot of rosemary next to you. Now, next, we have lavenders, which is aromatic lavenders. In Singapore, we can grow roughly about 3 to 4 types of lavender, which is much more get used to our humid and hot weather. So today I have 2 types over here. Normally you get to see the French lavender, the English lavender, and also the Spanish lavender. So now let me show you the first type, which is the French lavender. So over here we have the French lavender. One way to identify the French lavender will be they have a very lacy kind of look on the leaf by itself. So you can see over here, very nice and cute. Whereas sometimes the other kind of cultivar that I have today is the fern leaf lavender that you get to see over here. So just like the name again, because the leaf looks like some fern-shaped frond, that's why they call it as the fern leaf lavender. And you get to see they are flowering here as well. So next, I have the English lavender, which is commonly used for essential oil ingredients because they have a very strong smell. So they are always harvested for essential oil purposes and also culinary as well. So these two type of lavender is actually easier to grow in Singapore, that you can try it out. And today I managed to bring a very nice cultivar as well. This is the variegated version of English lavender. So what you get to see here is actually a creamy color kind. People grow this is more for the ornamental foliage rather than having the flowers. But they still have the lavender smell. Like once you brush it through, it smells good, okay? So the third type is Spanish lavender. Unfortunately, I didn't bring today, but you get to Google the photo and have a look. This is one of the more challenging type of lavender that you can grow in Singapore. One cute factor will be they have a cute bunny ear inflorescence that you get to see from the photo. So these are 3 types of lavender that you get to grow in Singapore. Okay, so I received a question from one of the participants. Can lavender flower in Singapore? Can I use other part of lavenders beside flowers? Yes, definitely can flower like what you see over here. But you won't get a field full of lavender like what you get to see in the photo. Most likely you will get things like something like this, very sparingly kind of flowering, where maybe you get 2 to 3 stalks one time. But during end of the year when the climate is slightly cooler, you might get extra a few more stalks. So yes, they can actually flower in Singapore. That's the good news, right? But because there's so little flowers produced by the plant, you can actually use the leaf as alternative for your culinaries, or even you can make into potpourris or some linear sets to hang in your closet. So it will keep your closet very refreshing smell. So these are some of the ways that you can use for your lavender. Okay, next we have dill. For dill wise, do you know that they are actually from the celery family? Yeah, so this is one interesting fact that you want to get to know of, but they taste very different. Okay, and if you like a flowering herb, this is one of the choice that you should go for, because they actually produce very cute yellow color flower for this plant. And you might want to take note that for dill wise, it's actually an annual herb, which means that you go through only one life cycle. So that means that they will grow from seed. Once they grow mature, they will flower and seed. After that, they will die off. So remember, it is always very important that once they start seeding, right, you should harvest the seed so that you can regrow the plant again. So do not be sad if, let's say, your dill die after some time. It's not because you don't have the skill. It's just because it's just how this thing grow. Okay? If let's say you wish to have the dill to grow slightly longer, one way to do it is the moment you see the flower stalk being produced out, please prune it away. So this will help you to prolong the lifespan of the dill. Okay, one common question again that I get from the public will be, what I have, whether is it a dill? So now, look at the photo that I put up. Okay, so is this a real dill or a fake dill? Can you tell me? Okay, the polling is up. Time start now. Okay. Okay, time's up. Okay, let's see the result. Okay, let me see. Oh wow, 42% say that photo is a dill. 58% of you saying that that's not a real dill, it's a fake dill. Okay, my answer is, it's not a real dill, actually it's a fake one. So good job for those who answer no. Like, how do you differentiate between the real dill and also the fake dill that I have over here, which I show in the photo? Okay, a few points that you can take note of. For dill, it's actually a herbaceous plant, which you get to see over here. Most of them are very soft and green parts. for the whole plant. So it's actually very herbaceous. There's very few woody stem-wise. Whereas for fig dew, or people know as the wormwood stem, it's actually a woody shrub. So you get to see all these plants stem is actually slightly more woody compared to dew. If you are still not sure by looking at the overall view, you can actually snip a stem and have a look of it. So let me snip off from the dew plant. Sorry, plant. Okay. Okay, over here, this is dew. You can actually see it's a hollow stem. Don't worry that if you can't see clearly from the video, there's a photo for you to reference at the corner. So whereas for fig dew, you can see actually it's a very woody kind of stem structure over here. So now let me place together so you have a better view. Not sure whether you guys can see or not. Okay, so this is the difference for the stem-wise. Next, we have the, another way to ID this will be the leaf structure. So for dew-wise, actually the leaf will be much more multiple branching kind, where you get to see over here. So you see there's different branching from one point of the place. So that's dew, and the color will be a bit bluish kind as well. But when you look at the fig dew, you realize that actually all the leaves attached to the main stem over here. So this is another way of identifying these two. Last but not least, if let's say you get to see the flower of either one of these plants, you get to differentiate it very easily. So look at the photo. Do you see the yellow cluster umbrella shaped like flowers in the photo? So actually that's the flower for dew. Whereas the one with very puffy like white flowers, that is actually for the wormwood stem, which is the fig dew. So these are some of the tips I can share when it comes to differentiate dew and fig dew. So I repeat again some of the points that you can look off. First thing is the plant form. Second, you can do a stem cutting and check on it, whether is it a hollow stem or woody stem. Third, you can look at the flowers, which is yellow or white. So these are some of the tips that I can share with you to differentiate whether is it a real dew or fake dew. Okay, so now, next, we have sage, which is also another flowering herbs that you would like to grow if you like to. Today, I have the common sage, which is over here, that you can find in nursery. Whereas recently, I do see some of the people start growing this very cutie little fella, which is the burgundy sage. So both of these actually share similar growing condition, as well as the leaf color-wise is almost similar. But when it comes to the smell and taste-wise, you might want to opt for burgundy sage because the smell will be stronger compared to the common one. Okay? And not only that, you might thinking that most of the sage will be silvery gray kind of leaf color, but it's not true. Over here, we have a very nice lime color plant sage over here. So if you crush the leaf, actually you get to smell a very citrusy pineapple smell. So this is how they get their name, which is the pineapple sage. So pineapple sage is actually a very good plant to grow if you like flowering herbs, because you get to see they have very attracting red flowers. So you can actually grow this plant at your home, enjoy the view of the flower as well using the plant. And to keep the lime color of the leaf, you may want to keep under a bright filter light, because once they get slightly more hot sun from the environment, the leaf tend to grow greener rather than lime. So you can adjust accordingly what kind of leaf color you want. Then you decide where you want to grow the pineapple sage. So you might be wondering how to store the sage one way is you might want to take note that for sage wise, it's always good to cut and keep as a whole. So what you do is after you, for example, sorry, I use some of the non-herb stuff. So for example, after you harvest your sage, you should actually upside down it and let it air dry without going through sunlight. So in that way, you can preserve most of the taste of your sage and the color as well. So you can use for your art and craft or even for your culinaries. If you crush it, the taste will lost in a very short time. So these are some of the tricks that you can do. Actually, they look very nice. I'll let you see what I did earlier. So this is the mint, this is the rosemary that I try to dry off. And this is the pineapple sage. So when you want, then you can just pluck a leaf and crush it into your culinaries. Yeah. Okay, that's more or less about some of the shrubby looking Mediterranean herbs that we have. So now, how about those plants that are more kind of ground hugging kind and is much more lower type? Perhaps if you like that kind of plants, now these are for you. First of all, we have the oregano, which also known as the pizza herb in common. And actually it's well known to be a good herbs to use for tomato-based dishes because it will enhance the flavor. And what we get to grow in Singapore will be these few kinds. The first one is the common oregano, or when you go to look at the seed pack that is available in the market, they will put as the Greek oregano, which is over here. Okay, for Greek oregano, the taste will be very herby kind with a very mild spicy taste. When you get to grow another kind of oregano that you get to see in the market, which is the Italian oregano, actually it has a very mild sweet taste compared to the common oregano. That's one of the oregano that you can grow. And last but not least, I bring in a very interesting cultivar today. So we have the oregano hot and spicy. Ta-da! Okay, look at this. It's a very nice oregano ground covers that you can plant. Okay, for oregano hot and spicy, just like their name, it's actually, when you taste it, you can taste much more spicy compared to the common one. So that's how they get their name. And to a surprise, it's a good source of vitamin K. So perhaps you want to eat a bit more for oregano. Then now we have sweet marjoram. Okay, for sweet marjoram wise, it's not commonly found in the nursery. So if you are interested to grow this, one way will be growing through seeds. And it's also very nice to grow for beginners as well because it's quite easy to take care of. And it's quite drought tolerant. So if let's say you have a very windy place or you tend to forget to water once or twice, this is a good choice to try it out. And if let's say you don't want to have a very strong herby smell in your salad, this is another alternative that you try for. Because for sweet marjoram wise, the taste is slightly mild compared to the others. Yeah, so next, you'll be surprised. Actually, chive is also part of the Mediterranean herbs family. And over here in Singapore, what we get to grow will be things like gucai with this kind of white flower form. Or you can even grow garlic chive, which having a bit of garlicky smell when you consume it. So they are very interesting. They don't have all those woody stem form. So I will tell you more how to propagate this thing later on. So this is chives. Now, if someone always tell you that, hey, I'm running out of thyme, you can actually hand them a pot full of thyme saying that, hey, you still got thyme? Why not? Yeah, okay, I know it's a lame joke. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so this is the last type of Mediterranean herb that I will be sharing. Compared to the other herbs that I shared earlier, this is not the easiest of all, because there's one common issue that most of us will face will be the rotting part, where the plants tend to rot from the center. So do go easy with your watering, because they don't like to be too wet, and you might want to place it at a slightly cooler place, because thyme prefer cooler condition as well. And make sure you have good aeration to reduce the chances of the thyme rotting. Okay. Whereas usage-wise, a lot of people use for salad, but give it a try on your dessert. You'll be surprised that it marries well with strawberries, peach, and also chocolate. So give it a try. This is a very nice thyme plant that we have. So that's more or less about some of the Mediterranean herbs that I get to share today. You might be puzzling, like, where is the mint and where is the basil? Okay, don't worry about that. Actually, our colleague Vicky actually did share about these two plants at the previous masterclass. So you can look at the link that we put up in the Q&A session or chat. You can write down the link and go have a look and go watch the video. She actually shared a lot of useful growing tips from there as well. So do take some time and go through about it. Yeah. Okay, before I move to the next section, I got a question for you guys. Okay, which of the following herbs can help to improve your memory? So please put your answer in. The time starts now. Okay, faster put in. Okay. Okay, time's up. Okay, great. Let's see the result then. Oh wow, 81% of you guys answer rosemary. Yes, you guys are correct. Whereas for those who answer dill and thyme, it's okay. You can have more rosemary, so it will help you to improve the memory. Ha ha ha. Okay, just a joke aside. Don't feel sad. Okay. Okay. Now moving forward to the propagation methods. Good news is for Mediterranean herbs-wise, you have really a good selection of propagation method. First, and for the most common type, will be growing through seeds. And for seed-wise, you can actually get the seeds from common local nurseries. Supermarket, sometimes you get to find some of them. And if let's say you want something more challenging, much more special, then you can go online to look for some of the reputable sellers online. So these are some of the source when you are doing seeds. Just take note that because their seed is very fine, you tend to overcrowd the seeds. So in that case, you might want to sacrifice some of the plants, so that some of the seedlings, so that you can keep most of them. If not, the chances of rotting is very high. Okay? And some people might asking me this question, I received before, like, since Mediterranean herbs can grow by seeds, do I able to harvest seeds from these herbs? Answer is, for dill and basil, you can actually harvest the seeds in Singapore. But for others herbs that I mentioned earlier, it's a bit hard because they hardly flower in our region. So the chances, if there's no flowers, there's no seed. So chances are really, really very low. Yeah. So you can give a try on dill and basil in that case. Yeah. But before you get disappointed, actually there's another way of propagation which suit most of the herbs over here, which is the stem cutting. Okay, when talk about stem cutting, the keyword for doing stem cutting in Mediterranean herb will be taking the semi-hardwood part. So what do I mean by semi-hardwood here? Okay, let me show you. Rosemary is a good one to show example actually. Okay, oh, this can have a better view. Okay. Over here, you can see the tip over here is very soft and flexible. Whereas, at the end of this tip of the branches, it's very stiff. You see, I can't really tilt a lot. So front part is the softwood, end part, which is very stiff and woody, is the hardwood. So just like the name, semi-hardwood will be at the center, okay, which is still a bit flexible, but not as flexible as the tip. So this is the part where you want to take your cuttings from, and it will give you a better rooting rate compared to the other parts. Okay, so remember to take from here. So I do a cut. Okay, I put away this plant. Okay, so if you can't see clearly what I showed just now, you can take a reference on the photo at your screen. So that's what you get to see. The tip part will be the softwood. The medium part will be, which is a bit less flexible, a bit woody, will be the semi-hardwood. And last of all is the woody kind of looking, which will be the hardwood part. Okay, back to here. You get to see this cutting. And what you need to do is you need to remove the leaf below here. Normally, I'll remove at least like 2 nodes of the leaf. Okay, so something like this. Once you have this, you can actually dip into rooting hormone and into the media that you want. That's one way. Second way will be you are using water to grow the cuttings. So when you are using water to grow cuttings, here are some of the examples. Okay, you might have a small glassware like this, then you don't need any support. So you can just directly put inside and make sure there's no leaf touching the water so that it doesn't cause rot. And do remember to change the water alternate days. So you will get to see actually they grow very well. Can see? This is the root from Oregano. About 2-3 weeks ago. So when you see this kind of root system, robust root system, right, you can actually transfer to the soil. If let's say you have a big glassware, like this, what you can do is you put a netting over, or you can put aluminum foil, as that's another option that is easily available at your home. You poke a few holes and you put it through. For netting wise, you might need to cut a few holes, bigger hole to put it in, and the leaf will help you to support the branches so that they don't touch at the base of your container. So this is the burgundy sage that I grew earlier. So you can see the root system actually is growing very well. Yeah. And good thing about covering up is you do not have mosquito breeding issue as well. So yeah, give it a try. Okay, so like what I said earlier, once the plant produces robust root system in the water, then you can consider to transplant into the media that you want. So about media-wise, I'll be sharing more later on. Next, if let's say you are having chives at home, there's no semi-wood, soft wood, any woody stem for you to cut. What can I do? I can't be cutting this and plant, right? Nah, it's not. It's either you grow from seeds or you can grow by division. Just like what we say, division is actually you divide the plant. So what you get to see here is a bushy chive. Actually, you can easily divide into maybe about 3 to 4 pots of chive over here. Yeah, so you just take it out from your pot, loosen up the soil a bit, divide them. Make sure if there's linkage in between, you might want to do a cut. Then after that, repot into individual pots. So it will be good to at least have 3 to 4 so-called individuals to plant together. So at least they are in a small cluster. The chances of survival will be higher. So that's for chive, which is division. If let's say you have a thyme or mint that you are growing in a pot, having multiple growing points, you can actually try out division as well. But just take note that you might need to do a bit more pruning to reduce the water loss of the plant while they regrow back, okay? So that's more or less about propagation methods for our Mediterranean herbs. So let me recap. We have seed sowing method. We have stem cutting method. Remember, take what? Semi-hardwood. Okay, then last but not least, if let's say there's no stem for you to cut, you can opt for division. Okay, now let's go to the plant care part, which you already know what type of plant you want to grow, how to propagate it, and now you need to know how to take care of them. So I always believe that having a good idea and understanding on how or where the plant used to grow will give you a better idea on how to grow the plants. So now, here come the third questions of the day. Perhaps you want to try to answer, what is the climate like in the Mediterranean region? The time starts now. Give it a try. Okay? Okay, time's up. Okay, let's see what's the answer. Okay, 22% of you guys saying that it's a wet summer and dry winter. Well, 78% of you guys saying that it's a dry summer and mild wet winter. Yep, those who answer dry summer and mild wet winter, you are correct. So actually in Mediterranean, they have very less frequent of rainfall compared to tropic region like Singapore. So we might need to amend some of our plant care so that they can grow happily. So let's look at some of the factors. First of all, we have sunlight, which is most of the Mediterranean herb will be growing well with 6 hours of filter bright sunlight with a bit of afternoon shade. Because the afternoon sun that we receive at our region is actually too much for most of the Mediterranean herbs. But this is exception for dill and basil. Dill and basil, they always like full sun. So you can actually throw them under full hot sun, which is about 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. So that's a bit different from there. Okay, so the next thing, we have the watering part, where you will always need to remember the key thing. Write it down, write it down. This is very important, I tell you, because that's the main reason of killing the plant. So what you need to remember is, you need to make sure during every watering, in between the watering, you have to let the media dry out. So if not, if it is too much for the plant, then it will start to rot. So what are some of the signs of overwatering? Let me show you one. Okay, look at this very sad little plant. Okay, so this is some of the signs that you want to look for when it's overwatering. Okay, this is a bit too late. So initial stage, what you get to see is the leaf at bottom of the stem actually start to turn black. It's not like the usual normal kind of growing, drying out, but it's more like suddenly you see every one of them start to have very brown kind of dry leaf below. So that's the initial part. This is actually way too late to save the plant. The only way you can save this plant is collect cutting and regrow it, which they still look fresh over here. Okay, that's the only way you can save this plant now. So in that case, remember, don't overwater it. And you might be wondering, like, how am I going to know how much water I put for my plant? With my watering way, I would recommend like alternate days. So it means that you drench fully of the pot where you see water drain out at the below of the pot. So it can be about alternate day watering. But if let's say you are still not sure when to water, because I believe everyone watering pattern will be a bit different. One way to tell will be, okay, let me show you this have better soil surface. Okay, so how to tell whether you need to water the plant or when you need to water the plant? One way is, I believe when you do gardening means that you don't mind to dirty your fingers. So first, the depth that you need to check on your soil moisture will be about this side, about one part of your finger. Then you poke into the soil to feel the moisture of the soil. Okay, now I feel this is kind of moist and wet. So for now, I don't need to water my sweet marjoram. I can give you a skip. But you start to feel the soil to be at the drier side, then that's where you need to water the plant. So I believe after a few checks, you can actually develop your own frequency and the amount of water that you need to put in for your plant. And sometimes you might be wondering, like, how about I put my plant outside, which is at the balcony, exposed to rain? Okay, so in that case, you might want to be careful when you're doing watering. So checking of the soil moisture is one thing that is very important now. Another option that you can opt for is to have a rain shelter at your balcony. So you can look at the photo, and the photo inside at the screen is actually a DIY structure, or you can actually buy off shelf. So that's one thing that you can try it out. Or alternatively, you can actually amend your media accordingly. So this leads me to my next step, which is on preparing your media. So what is the recommendation from me? The recommendation will be, let me take this over. One part of peat moss, one part of burnt earth, 2 parts of gritty materials. For gritty material wise, you can actually use things like leca, pumice, perlite, vermiculite, either one of these. So long as 2 parts of it will do. Today I have leca and pumice with me. Okay, so once you mix up these 4, you'll get to see the soil mix look something like this. Okay? So, do you realize that my choice of mixture actually share a common characteristic? So, they share one thing, which is most of them are well drained. And the peat moss will help to retain some of the water for the plant to be absorbed later on. So that's how I derive my recommendation. And so if let's say you are having a plant in your balcony, you might want to amend the media a bit because you can't control the rainfall. So it is better for you to add in a bit more gritty materials and cut down a bit of the loam so that you can let the plant dry out in between, especially during rainy season. So these are some of the things that you can amend your media accordingly. Yeah, so it's not a must to follow the ratio, but you should amend according to your habit and also your growing environment as well. So that's more or less about the media. Next, another very important thing is about regular pruning. So regular pruning is very important because it will help to make the plant much more bushy and also provide better aeration for the plant to grow. This will reduce chances of get pest and disease attack. What am I meaning by after pruning the plant looks better? Okay, my oregano hot and spicy will be back again. So looking at here, both of these actually I grow from cuttings. The only difference is I don't do any pruning on this fella. You can see there's no pruning at all. So this is how it looks like. But for this, I do a bit more of pinching, which is removal the tip growing part, which we also call as the pinching. And this will give the oregano a better full form, a bushier look. Can you see the difference? if I don't prune, what you get to see is a very lengthy, long branches going around here. So this shows the importance of pruning. You might be wondering, if let's say I got a messy plant, how am I going to do it? So no worry, let me show you my messy plant. It's really very messy. Ta-da! Maybe got forget to go for a haircut, that's why it's so messy. Okay. So you get to see here a very messy oregano, which can happen because we might forget at one corner, but they are still doing well. So first thing first, when you're doing your pruning, see all these dry branches going around, dead branches. That's the first thing that you want to remove. See all this dried stuff, it looks so ugly here. Just like your white hair that you always tend to remove it. So just keep on cut and cut. Actually, it's very therapeutic. You should do when you are feeling stressed. Okay, once you remove most of the dry part, might not be very clean because I can't see. Next thing, you see all the overgrown runners going around here. If it's a potted plant, then you might wish to cut away all these, and you can use for your stem cutting, propagation. Bad idea. Okay. So let's cut. Wow, sim tia, see, cut so much. But okay lah, they will look better after that. Okay. Okay, so once you form the shape that you want, or remove the extra growth that you want, next thing will be thinning out so that there's a better, there'll be a better aeration for the plant to reduce the pest and disease issue. So now you get to see where it's very bushy. Then you need to thin it out a bit. This is the time-consuming part. Earlier you can be like a hairdresser that cut very nicely. But now you are like a doctor. Okay, I'm not doing too much because I don't have time, but roughly that's the idea. So once you get something much more less bushy, sorry, not less bushy, it's less messy, then it looks better. So all these will be some of the regular maintenance that you should have. So this is roughly how it looks like. It should be better, but I don't have time, so I just do a rough one. Okay? So cleaning out from here. So once you already, once you already prune your plant, what you need to do will be doing giving some food to your plant, which is providing fertilizer. Because once you cut, what you want is to boost up the growth of the foliage. So it's always good to feed after you prune the plant. Some of the fertilizer that I would recommend will be going through the organic fertilizer, which is things like bone meal, or if let's say you prefer the liquid kind, will be things like seaweed extract. So these are some of the things that you should apply after pruning your plants. But do take note of one thing. Always refer to the product label for the proportion that you should use. You can always use lesser than recommended, but you shouldn't be overdosing to your plants. If not, over-fertilized will cause your plant to burn and die as well, because it's too salty for them to to grow also. Okay, so remember again, look at your labels. Remember the keyword will be small portion, but you can increase the frequency. Okay, that's very important. And always do it after you prune your plants. That will help you to have a very bushy looking plant as well. So that's about fertilizer. So all those are the common plant care that you should take note of. And next we have pests and disease, which is once a while we might fall sick. For Mediterranean herb wise, it's rather pest free actually, and actually you will realize it's snail free as well. The main problem will be because the way we handle the plant will cause some sickness to the plant. So things like fungal issue, you get to see in the photo things like rust, which happen to rosemary. Those are some of the signs where you might be overwatering it, or when you water your plant, you water from the top, they didn't get to dry on time, this and that. And another kind of fungal issue will be things like leaf spot, the next photo. Okay, it will be something roundy at most of your broader leaf kind. So all this kind of fungal issue, including root rot, is actually because the way we handle the plant is not correct. Like we don't do enough pruning, or we put the plant too close to each other, the air is too wet, can't dry on time, or maybe we overwater the plant. So these are some of the practices that you should take note of. So once you do the right way, you can actually save the plant. Whereas for pest issue wise, most of the time they will have issue like spider mites. When they place too close together, there's two things that happen. It can be either you water from top, it get too wet, cannot dry on time, or you water, it's only using the hydroponic system or the self-watering system, or the watering on the surface. Then because they put too close together, the air is always dry and still, spider mite will come. Or just a random pest that will come in will be things like lace bug. So first photo just now you get to see the webby light is a later stage of spider mites, and now we have the photo of lace bug infection early stage, which you start to see a bit of scraping off of the leaf surface. If you don't treat it on time, what you get to see in the next photo is they will defoliate your whole plants, like botak. So in that case, it's a bit too late to save the plant. Okay. So these are some of the fungus and pest issue that you might get. So what are some of the remedy? Be it pests or be it fungus, first thing first, I will always recommend to have a physical remedy, which is physical removal. If it's just starting of it, you can just trim it off, the infected part, and discard it. Don't keep in the plastic bag and put next to your plant. You will infect your plant that is nearby as well. So if let's say you have the space to isolate the sick plant, it will be good, especially for those that have fungal issue. And for fungal issue wise, remember this: do not reuse the soil. Do not reuse the plant material that you already cut and use it as a compost. So all these are no action that you shouldn't do. You should throw away the soil, throw away the plants. For pot and your tool wise, if let's say you really cut the plant, before you move to the next one, make sure you sanitize the tool. If not, you'll be bringing the fungus spore to the next plant, and you will spread the disease easily. So make sure you sanitize your plant and your pot before you reuse again. So that's about pests and disease. So for my sharing, it's roughly about all these. Now we can move into the Q&A section, which is everyone's favorite. Wow, how many questions I get? Oh my God, that's a lot. Okay, I try to answer as much as I can. Okay, first, why do my herb does not emit a strong fragrance? Okay, for this, right, if let's say you have this issue, first thing first, you go look at your growing condition. Most likely your plant being put at a place where there's lack of sunlight for the plant. So what you can do is you try to shift the plant to a slightly brighter place. Then you monitor. After maybe a month later, you try to harvest again and try. It should be able to help to produce a better fragrance. So the reason being that the plants need sunlight to produce essential oil in the plant itself. So when you have lack of sunlight, they will be in a minimal growing condition to survive. Okay, there's one question for you guys. Next, okay, this is another question. How long does it take for rosemary and lavender plant to flower? Can they continue to grow after their flowers are harvested? Okay, for flowering wise, because our climate is not as the same as what we have in Mediterranean, so most likely it will be depending on our climate. Like if let's say we have a cooler weather, then you might start to have flowers. If talking about lavender, perhaps about 90 days you start to see flowers if you are lucky. And whether they will continue to grow after their flower are harvested. So we only harvest lavender flowers most of the time, so they can actually continue to grow from there. And remember that once you trim it, it's actually another kind of pruning as well. But the only thing that doesn't grow after the flower come will be the dill. Okay? Next, I have, what's the best Mediterranean herb that you advise for beginner? Okay, like what I said earlier, the first thing will be like mint, basil. Then next you can try sweet marjoram and oregano as well. So these are some of the things that you can try. So the next question I have, do herbs grow well in poor soil? Well, okay, this is a tricky question. Okay, when you talk about poor soil, if you are saying that it's a very clayey soil, it's a bit hard in our climate, but you might see internet saying that, oh, Mediterranean herb grow well in poor soil. But the context is if they are living at Mediterranean region where there's very few rainfall. But for our tropical region with heavy downpour, we even need to build rain shelter for them. So if let's say you have a very poor soil condition, the chances are this Mediterranean herb will not be growing very well. You might need to amend your soil or change your soil media. So I hope I answered your question. Next, can I use my table lamp as grow light if there is insufficient light in my house? Okay, for this, perhaps, okay, this is a bit, okay, for table lamp wise, maybe you want to check whether you can adjust the height of your light and what kind of light you are using it. If it's using normal LED light, you might need to put closer to your plants because if it's too far away, the light intensity actually drop. And you might want to have two types of light to shine on your plant because the normal table lamp light might not have sufficient wavelength like the sunlight. So you might need at least one cool light and one daylight. So the type where it's a bit more warm color and as well the other one will be a bit more bluish. So at least you need to have these two type of lights to shine on your plant. Then you have a better chance. But it will be work better for those that need lesser sunlight. Things like mint can grow well. If let's say you are growing dill and basil, then it will be a bit more challenging, I would say. Yeah. So I think at another way, I also answer the question of what type of Mediterranean herbs I can grow indoor in Singapore climate. So like what I say, if let's say you are using normal LED lights, at least you need a few to compensate each other. So like things like mint, things like oregano actually do well. Things like, let me see what I have. Okay, actually lavender is still not too bad. Yeah, even thyme and sage might be okay, depending how is your light intensity are. So these are the few things that you can try on your light. So next question. Okay, hold on a while. Let me look at the question. Oh, I tried to grow rosemary from putting them in water without success. I even tried dipping the lower end in rooting hormone. They still died after a few weeks. Please advise. Okay, because I can't get a full picture on what you do, I try to give you a few possibilities. Okay, first thing first, like what I said earlier, when you are doing cuttings, make sure you take the semi-hardwood part. That will help you to give you a better rooting rate compared to soft and hardwood. Next, you might want to troubleshoot to like whether you remove the lower parts of leaf before you plant or before you put into the water. Because if you don't remove that, it will cause rotting. So if let's say you didn't remove it, it start to rot, the next thing is the rot will affect the cuttings and they will die from there. So that's two possibilities that you have over there. Third is where you place your cuttings. So a lot of people might thinking like, hey, they are full sun. So where I take the mother plant, where I take the cuttings from the mother plant, that will be the best place. But no. So imagine that you cut the stem. Hey, where did my rosemary go? I don't know where I threw. Okay. Okay, I cut one again. Okay. So after you cut, there's no root, you see. Okay, there's no root. And imagine without root, they can't uptake water. And you place at the place where it's similar to the mother plant, which is 6 hours of bright sunlight. It's actually too much for the cuttings because they will lose a lot of water. So what you need to do is you might want to put at a shadier earlier when you start to see, if you are planting in the media, when you start to see new growth out from there, then you can slowly move them to a brighter area and slowly move to where you have your mother plant are. So that's one thing that you want to take note of. If all this you try it out and you still fail, next thing you need to do is after you plant into the media, you might want to cup it up with a container for maybe about a few days to help the plant to reduce the water loss while they're trying to grow their roots. So once you see new growth from there, you can slowly open up your container. You shouldn't be open up directly like today, oh, they have new growth, then you directly remove the cup. Well, the next day you'll see the plant all flopping down again. What you need to do is you slowly open up the cup or the container. So you open maybe like half of it using a pebble to hold it on. Then after a few days, it looks okay, then you slowly then you take out the whole cup and see how it is, or you can puncture a few more holes at your container. Then the end, you just remove the whole cup. Then your plant will grow well. So give it a try. Yep. So now, let me answer the last question because I'm running out of time. So, are the cuttings of herbs like rosemary, thyme, and sage sold in supermarket suitable for use to propagate or rooting? If so, any tips on how to root them successfully? Okay, it can be yes and no. Because first of all, you need to see whether what you get, is it a fresh cutting and which part you get. If let's say all are the softwood type, the chances of you get them to root will be lower. But if let's say you are lucky enough to have the semi-hardwood part, and they are still very fresh, the chances of you rooting the cuttings will be higher. So pretty much depending on your luck when you get your Mediterranean herbs from the supermarket. So do check it out. So from the example that you asked here, I guess thyme will be a bit harder. But for sage-wise, might have a better chance, and rosemary, maybe you can give it a try if it's a semi-hardwood kind. Yeah, so that's the last question that I can answer for you guys. So thank you very much for being with me today. That's what I can share today. If you want to watch it again, this session will be uploaded on our MParks SG YouTube channel. For more information on gardening, do check out our MParks website or MParks SG YouTube. So you can click like and subscribe so you get update notification from there. So that's all from me today. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you very much, and goodbye.